pull up to a farm. He's lost his house. He's lost all his sheds. So, millions of dollars of sheds and machinery that's been damaged because the sheds come down on the harvesting gear and all the rest. He's got nothing. Like, you got nowhere to stay now. You'd pull up and he'd go, no, don't worry about me. Next bloke down the road's worse off than I am. Go help him. And that was everywhere. Like, every bloke was like, no, I'm fine. I'm alive. Go look after my neighbour.
Welcome to the Unpacking Creative Lives podcast. I am your host, Banipreet, and this week we're talking to Flynn Drage. Flynn is a North Hampton born country boy. He now works as a surveyor based in Geraldton in Western Australia. I met Flynn through my best friend and his now wife, Jasmeet. In this episode, I ask Flynn about community, relationships, photography, and Cyclone Seroja. Just a warning that there will be adult language used in this episode, so if that's not your thing, feel free to skip it. Follow at I am Banipreet for weekly episode updates, or subscribe to my YouTube channel to watch full video episodes. All right, let's go.
Egyptian mythology is probably my favourite. I love that.
Yeah. Why? What is it about that that's your favourite?
Egyptian mythology, I don't think there's anything else that's been as similar, like the family story with Osiris and Isis, obviously, is completely different to all the others. It's a bit more brutal, I guess. But yeah, and obviously it's one of the oldest, if not the older, of all the mythologies that we know of, that's been recorded in history, obviously. So yeah, it's probably the OG.
The OG. Nice.
Yeah.
So if there's one book that you would recommend that everyone should read in their life, what book would that be?
Everyone's going to read the Iliad. Everyone.
Yeah. You were born and raised in North Hampton. What was that like?
That was awesome. Great upbringing in a small country town of that size. It was big enough that we had, all your essentials. You had your decent supermarket. You had your 3 pubs, because you need 3 pubs in a town of 800 people.
Yeah.
But no, it was good. Couple of schools, obviously the private and the public school. We had a sport. All small country towns, particularly in West Australia, everything revolves around the sport. So yeah, footy during winter and cricket during summer, and that was it. That was what everything revolved around those 2 events pretty much. And it's sad to see it's slowly changing, but that's just the nature of the world.
It's slowly changing in the country communities?
Yeah, everywhere in all the country, because farming obviously is getting a lot more large scale. So if you think about it, everyone once had 1,000 acres, and now everyone's got 10,000 hectares. So 20, where 20 people, 20 families would have farmed that 10 hectares previously, 100 years ago or 70 years ago. Now you got one family, and it's all machine run. So you pretty much need the farmer, 1 or 2 workers. There's 3 blokes covering what would have been done by 100 people. So therefore you've lost all those children from the high schools and the sporting teams and all that sort of stuff. And yeah, that's definitely noticeable. Like, even from the Northampton District High School where I went, from year 1, I think there was nearly 100 kids in 8, 9, 10, the 3, because we only go to year 10, and then you've got to go out of boarding school or to Geraldton for year 11 and 12. But there was 100 kids in those 3 years when I was in year 1. By the time I got to year 10, I think only 6 of us graduated, and it was probably only 30 of us in the whole high school. So we lost 70% within the space of nearly 10 years.
What do you think that was from? From the farming?
That's just from mainly farming. All the farmers selling up, getting bought out by their neighbours, because it just wasn't viable anymore without the land. You need to have the land to be viable. And then when you lose the farming, you lose other industries from in town. They go to Geraldton, because Geraldton's only 50 k's away. It's a major district with all the ag services and everything you possibly need, pretty much. And yeah, so once you lose the farming, you lose other people in town, because other businesses in town aren't required anymore, and people would have less kids now as well. I guess that's probably a big thing. Everyone now has 1 or 2 kids, whereas it used to be families of 5 or 6 when, probably the generation before me. But yeah, it's less and less often now.
What do you think is a really big difference between country life and city life?
There's a far larger sense of community in the country.
The irony, though.
Yeah. In Perth, well, any city pretty much. You can ask my wife Jasmine. She'll she'll let you know.
I'll
try and talk to people or say if you make eye contact with someone, you say hello, and they say hello back. That's something I really struggle with.
Yeah, she told me actually.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I'm pretty friendly with strangers as well, but not every single person in the city. I'm generally really conversational with, someone waiting in the line somewhere or anywhere.
Yeah.
Like I'm very comfortable with that way. But I remember she told me when you were in the city, when you came to Sydney, you were like, g'day.
Yeah.
Like, this is supposed to be your hat, by by the way.
Yeah, I was getting nothing.
This is the Akubra.
And I was
Yeah.
I was pretty dirty. I was like grumbling. These people, they're all rude. It was worse in London.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, there is such a sense of everyone having their own
bubble.
They're completely in their own bubble, and you almost need permission to get into that bubble, even just for a conversation. It's hard to get that. Not everyone's that friendly. Like I remember feeling like when I'm with, sometimes I was once with my girlfriend from high school, and we were at a cafe, and another girl who was in the same year as us, who we were not really friends with, who was just in her own group. She was just in like this girl group growing up. She came to the cafe and she walked in, and I was like, and I haven't seen her in 5 years. And I wasn't really friends with her, but like when you see someone from your high school, you want to go say hello and you want to just be like, yeah, what's been happening? What have you been doing since? But my girlfriend was like, please don't go up. Please don't. Because I was just like, no, I want to know. I genuinely want to know what she's up to. But she's like, she wouldn't let me go. So I was like, okay. Yeah. And I feel like that's something that you and I are similar in.
Yeah,
but,
absolutely.
Not to the extent of every single person on the street, Flynn. I can't do that. I'm working on it.
I'm definitely detached a bit more from which is probably part of the things that people say that, Perth, for instance, a lot of people have moved there in the last 10, 20 years, like I was saying, out of the country, because that's where the work is and all the rest. And yeah, there'll be people that probably used to do what I did all the time, but they've just been desensitized by being there for so long that they realize it's not normal to do that, and now they probably don't do it. It's just you're a creature of your environment. People just put their blinkers on and just put their head down and go.
Yeah. And is that what you prefer the most? Because you went to Perth for a few years to study after school, and then you realized that you missed it. So you went back to North Hampton and worked with your dad before you moved to Geraldton. Was that what you were yearning for, community, when you wanted to go back?
Absolutely. I loved my first 2 years in Perth, because 17, 18, 19, I was playing footy, where, all my mates pretty much, we all moved down at the same time. So, oh,
that's awesome.
There was like 20 of us within, a couple of suburbs of each other. So it was always one house to the other, a lot of partying and just ticking over the study, doing what we needed to do. But that was great. But then it sort of, got to a point, probably 2.5 years, and we found ourselves not going out much, and then just, let's go east of the city. There's some ranges, the Mundaring Ranges, out to the or the Mundaring Scarp. I was still studying. I still had to finish my studies, and other mates and that were halfway through apprenticeships and all the rest. And so we finished off down there. But pretty much as soon as I'd finished my surveying qualifications, I was pretty happy to come home and be back in that, particularly the footy and cricket environment, those club sports and things like that. That was a big driver.
Was it not the same in Perth?
No, played for Carlisle in Perth. They were good I was dragged there by a mate from North Hampton, and then he dragged other mates, so it wasn't too bad, because it was probably a couple of Geraldton, North Hampton, that sort of area blokes down there. They were a good club. I definitely can't fault them, but just the fact that you got to drive through half an hour of traffic to get a footy train, was things like that just don't don't do it for me.
Even if you think back to like 50, 60 years ago, everyone was neighborhood friendly.
Yeah.
You know, and you just don't have that anymore.
No. We're very lucky here we're in the most northernmost suburb of Geraldton, which is Drummond Cove, which was actually a little coastal beach town, but Geraldton, and obviously over the years it's expanded right out. Still a bit of bushland between Drummond and Geraldton, but it's a suburb, but it's also its own little community, and we're bloody lucky here because the neighbours across the street, and we see them, we talk to them daily. Man, the blokes across the street have a beer every second night out the front on the street, and I need something, I go, I don't even knock on the door, I go straight down the back to their sheds and grab what I need and come back and just wave as I go past the kitchen window, and really
I love that.
And they do the same. They've got keys to our house. They know where the spare key is. They, come in and grab what they need from my garage or whatever.
Consensual stealing. I love it.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. And you get a message. You're like, have you got my whip snipper? I'm like, oh yeah, sorry about that. It's been in my garage for a month. Like, in Geraldton here, we've got mates who have moved to town on the other side of town, which is Wandina. It honestly takes us longer to get to see them than it does to go to North Hampton because we're on the north side of Geraldton here. We've got friends, we just don't see them. They're only 25 minutes away, but we just don't see them. And that's a bit sad because they're still only 25 minutes away, but everyone who's in our area, in the suburbs nearby on the north side of town here, we see all the time, almost weekly. And, Friday night, group message, having beers and putting some roast on or something, or we're doing pizzas tonight, the message will go out and you go up there and you'll see 5, 6, 7 mates that at any random time. And we're all just, we've got that little community where we are here. To the extent that all our friends south are slowly moving up here because they realise that they're missing out. So they're all building or buying out this way because everyone else is up this way.
What do you think the key is to maintaining a good friendship?
I was going to say seeing each other, but I've got great mates who I just don't see.
Right.
But it's, even though we don't see each other, like one in particular, mate Sam, who I probably didn't see for the first 2 or 3 years, or probably at least 2 years since I started dating Jazz, mate. And I said to Jazz, Sam's coming up. He's going to Calbarry. He's got these voucher for this hotel room. I reckon it'd be a good opportunity to go catch up with him. I haven't seen him in ages. Like, it's one of my best mates. And she's like, he's not one of your best mates. I've never even heard of him. I'm like, no, he's one of my best mates. She's like, no, he's not. And fair enough, I probably hadn't even mentioned him to it. But he still was one of my best mates in my mind. Went there, caught up with him, spent the weekend with him, and she, like, within half an hour, she's like, oh yeah, he's one of your best mates. She could see straight away,
right,
how we could just pick up where we left off, and we're really close. But I'm not good at keeping in touch, i.e. phone calls and things like that.
When you say you're not good, does that mean that people say that you're not good at keeping up, or are you just saying that for yourself? Is that the feedback that you hear from your friends?
No, not really. But
because is it such a bad thing to not keep up?
We're probably all in this. Like, they're probably just, most of my mates probably just as bad as me, to be honest. It's not like Sam, for instance. I don't call Sam very often, but he doesn't call me either. So it's just us. But I would, you do think about it sometimes. You do feel conscious, and you're like, I really should give so-and-so a call. I haven't spoken to him in 8 months. And all my mates are starting to have kids and things like that now. So obviously their time is understandably elsewhere.
Occupied.
So we've got to try and make sure we get to them as opposed to what it used to be. And particularly me, I've always had people come to me. I've always been everyone come around mine, like the host, if you know what I mean. And anywhere we lived in Perth, I'd be the host, and everyone would come to my place. And yes, I had to clean up the mess after, but also, I didn't have to go anywhere, which I loved. But getting into the habit of being the one that goes and sees everyone else is something that I definitely yeah, I've been getting better at, because like I said, they're all having families and things. They can't just swing around for a beer on a Friday night. But if I go there, yeah, he can have young fella just sitting there with us, and we can have a quiet beer and have a chat and catch up, and I can be Uncle Flynn, and yeah, no, it's good. Yeah.
That's so cool that you're aware of that, though. Not many people are even aware of whether they're like chasers or receivers, and if you are in a certain role where you're like home base and people come to you, then adjusting and shifting takes a minute. Like, I feel like I'm the opposite. So I used to follow up on people, and I used to like reach out to people, and now I'm more comfortable with myself that I'm like, okay, if you want to talk, let's talk. If you don't, that's cool too. Like,
yeah,
it doesn't matter, like we're
not trying to force it.
We're all free, like you do you and I'll do me. And whenever we talk, like, especially Justmeet's a great example. And those of our listeners and viewers who don't know, Justmeet is Flynn's wife, but she was my best friend first. So let's just start there. And we've spoken almost every day, but we weren't always like that. The time when you started dating, just before that, there was a whole period of 2 to 3 years, maybe even 4 years, where we didn't talk at all. And then we just started, like, we just picked up where we left off, and we didn't even think twice about it. And then I realized, like, and even in Sydney, Flynn, like we were always phone buddies, because in Sydney, we weren't able to drive. And then she had left. She had gone to Perth by the time we were able to drive. So we were always phone buddies. So still to this day, like, we still clean our rooms and talk, which you're very aware of that.
I love it. She's so productive when she's on the phone to you.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, she gets so much done.
She does. It's great. I love it. But but just understanding that it changes, right? And it's okay for you to like pick up different roles, probably in the last year, like, I've needed her so much, and she knows that and is aware of that. So she's always checking in on me, but maybe at a point, that won't be the case anymore. But that's so cool. So like, just being open to friendship roles changing.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's definitely something like we were saying before, with having people come to me and now spending more time going to that. It's taken years for me to sort of get better at that, without a doubt. I'm pretty good at sending the message saying, come over, pretty much. Yeah. Like, yeah. Whereas, I need to be, and we're all not far away, so it's not like I can't just pack an esky, go for a walk, have 5-6 beers, and walk home. Like, they're all within walking distance. It's not a big deal for us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it's when you're used to that role. When you're used to, like, your place in the group as well. Like, everyone has their own place, and that's been your role for a while now.
It's always been, and Horrocks is the exact example. We had the big shack in the middle of Horrocks, and we call it the drop-in centre. The Horrocks is a coastal town, a little holiday town, just east of west of North Hampton there, and had mates up what we used to call Snobs Hill to the south of town. It was, proper houses where my mates actually lived up there, and then same on the north side of town, there was proper houses, and then you got all of the beach camps down the bottom, and we were pretty much smack bang in the middle of all the beach camps, and everyone sort of just funneled down. And some days we'd have 30 kids running around the beach camp. We had pool table, ping pong, darts, Nintendo 64. There'd be 30 pairs of thongs out the front of the beach camp. We're just having a ball, but it was always that, and that's probably where it all started. Well, always used to have everyone having everyone with me or at my place. And then that just continued on. We went to Perth and all the rest, and everyone and my mates still they still know it. They still say it. They're like, and they reckon I'm good for because we're a little bit out of town. I'm pretty good for come around for beers. Also, can you bring a block of beers? Because I don't want to go back into town.
Nice.
So I'll get a bit of stick for that. I'm like, hey, but I'm providing the location.
Yes. Now you don't know. Like, what are you supposed to say now? Now you have to go.
Yeah.
And take your block of beers.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I've got one particular mate who, without doubt, he'll come and drink 2 beers, but he'll bring 30. Oh. And he'll leave the 28 with me every time.
No.
And I'm like, now I go see him, I'm like, I have to get him a block of beer because he's literally done it for so long. Like, I have to make sure I bring one every time, even if I'm only having 2. That's just what he's always done. So I feel like I have to return it.
It's really cool. That's like a family, Yeah.
I
love that.
Beer currency.
Beer currency. Oh, yeah. that's with Indians and food, man. It's just food currency.
Yeah.
Food is our love language, and you totally know it, man.
Oh yes.
Like if I go to a party, like I'm vegetarian, but if I go to a party and I see like a salad and like leaves there, I'm like, this person does not get me. But like when somebody feeds me, I'm
It's like I'm
like,
talking
you
to
love me
Jasmine.
so much.
She's
But
like,
it's true. It's true.
yeah. Non-vegetarians just think, oh, salad.
Exactly, because they don't know. Like we're raised on curry and vegetables and all pastries and all these different things, and like there's so many options that it's like me understanding meat. So if you came over and I made a non-veg dish, I wouldn't know where to start. I was like, should I make butter chicken? I don't know. You have to convince me to go to a 5-day cricket match. What do you do?
You get to drink beer for 5 days and watch cricket. Like, that's really, I can't really explain anything better than that. No, 5-day cricket would be a struggle to sell to anyone who is not already a cricket tragic, because yeah, you are sitting there for 5 days for 8 hours a day or 6 hours a day.
But you love that?
I'd love that. I've never done a full 5-dayer just because of time. Like I've never. You got to take 5 or 3 days off leave just to do it. But I've been to like 2 or 3 days Australia vs Pakistan years ago. Yeah, that was great. Just every day you get excited. You go in, you settle in, you find your spot, you wear your big wide brim hat.
I heard it's about the commentary. It's about the drama of the commentary that's really interesting too. Is that true? Is that what you like about it?
Depends if you're watching on TV or if you're in a game. If you're like, I love watching on TV because the commentary, you love all the special guests and all their, the nuances of the game and what batsmen and bowlers are doing. And again, if you don't know cricket, you won't understand a lot of it. But like how the bowler will work to a plan on the batsman, and then when he executes that plan, like he might bowl 100 balls building up to this one ball. So he's drilled the batsman into thinking what's happening, and then he does something completely different that catches him unaware and gets his wicket or whatever. There's a lot of tactics to cricket that people, again, like non-cricketers wouldn't realise how tactical the game is.
I'm really interested to know your story about Cyclone Seroja, because when I heard it through Jasmeet and all the phone calls that I had with her, it seemed like that you had a really strong presence in helping out in the community. And that's one of the biggest reasons why I wanted you to come on the podcast, other than your photography and your life. And can you explain Cyclone Seroja for the people who don't know what it was?
Cyclone Seroja was a very out of the blue natural disaster for our region. We do get the tail end of cyclones probably every year, but by the time they reach us, so where we are, we're about a third of the way up the West Australian coast. So typically the cyclones are hitting the northwest. Sometimes they'll get as far as Exmouth, Carnarvon with still at cyclone level, not just a tropical low. And yeah, by the time they get to us down here, it's usually always downgraded to a tropical low. So a big storm. It's just a big storm by the time it gets to us. Dumps a heap of rain, bit of wind, but not that bad. Problem with Seroja was it went out to sea, built up power again, and then swung in and smashed. It crossed landfall between Kalbarri and North Hampton, or Horrocks. And it was still Cat 3, which is nothing in our area is rated for Cat 3.
What's Cat 3? What does Cat mean?
Category.
Is that like okay.
Yeah,
gotcha.
so
Category.
it's certain speeds, wind speeds, basically. I can't remember off the top of my head. I think they hit about 190k winds in Kalbarri and through there. So, like I said, none of our region, and because we're such a historical region, like Northampton's pretty much, besides the Swan River Colony, which became Perth, Northampton's the first settled place in West Australia, because that's where all the mines were. That's where all the tin, lead, copper, everything was first found here. And so all the English and Welsh moved out here and started mining. And then from our region, they spread out through Western Australia. The gold rush happened, everyone went inland and all the rest. But we have a lot of historical building, a lot of old stone, jarrah, and old rusty tin roofs, and a lot of those older buildings. And then everything that has been built in the modern age hasn't been built to be cyclone rated, because we're just not classified as a cyclone risk area. So when it hit bad. Kalbarri copped it. Anyone on the north side of the eye, if anyone knows much about cyclones, the north side, on the backside, basically, you do not want to be there, and that's what Kalbarri was, because it passed south of Kalbarri.
Wasn't there a situation where your best friend was in a wardrobe or a closet or in the pantry, and like their whole house was demolished?
Yes. So my cousin Fletch, they're in a rental just east of North Hampton, and yeah, they lost their roof early, and then the ceiling started. So you got the false ceiling, and then the roof cavity, and then the actual tin roof. They lost the roof pretty quickly, and then obviously all the torrential rain soaked the ceiling, and that started coming in. So him, his wife, his 4-year-old daughter, and his 2-year-old daughter, they were huddled in the laundry under a mattress, getting soaked wet, ceiling coming down, all that. You can imagine all the insulation and stuff from in the ceiling, mice, rats, probably droppings and everything, because every ceiling has them. There would have been filth. There was all that sort of stuff, sodden wet coming down on them, and just huddled under a mattress, because you couldn't go anywhere. You couldn't step outside of the walls of the building, otherwise you would have been in a lot of trouble. You certainly couldn't get in the car to drive to somewhere else. And that's that. There was a lot of stories like that.
Yeah, I imagine that's one of many.
It's incredible that no one died. It's like being on the ground afterwards and looking at some of the properties and the houses and that people had been in throughout the cyclone. Like I said, they lost the ceiling 9 o'clock and then had to sit huddled under a mattress till daybreak. You know what I mean? Like soaking wet, still, cyclonic winds blowing around and tin and tree branches and everything come flying in, and would have been. We were very lucky in Geraldton because it passed just north of us. But if it hit Geraldton, it would have been massive. There would have been lives lost for sure if it hit Geraldton, because of the amount of infrastructure.
And how did you recover as a community?
It was bloody good for the community in the regards of how they got together, how united the community. I'm super proud. So we lost all power, lost all telephone communications. So the morning after the cyclone, we did no one had any way of contacting anyone. So jump in the car, go drive around, see all your mates in the area. It was still red alert, so we weren't supposed to be driving around, but we were driving around, checking on all your direct mates. Just up to the east of us here, a couple of mates lost garage doors and things like that. But we lost our side fence, about 30 metres of fence, but that was the typical Geraldton damage. So nothing severe. So went and checked on all the mates. All the mates were good. Then another mate from North Hampton lives around the corner, Millo, and then me and him were like, all right, let's go check on family. So we jumped in the car again. Weren't supposed to go anyway because it was still under all red alert and everything. But we went up to North Hampton. Went directly to family first. Like he checked on his brother. I checked on my parents. They were fine. They did have probably the 50 grand of damage, but it was all cosmetic stuff. Like they lost the solar hot water and a few gutters and big trees. I think 11 big trees went down. They got mum's got a massive garden, but nothing in the scale of things. And then saw Millo at his place, and he said Fletcher had lost his roof. So we went around there, spent time doing that. Like just moving him out, basically, moving all his stuff out of his house that was salvageable into Millo's shed. So it was dry. We emptied his house, and then just finished that arvo, did that, came back here. Everyone came down to our place in Drummond's here. Again, still no power and comms. This went on for nearly a week. No power, or a week. Power was longer than that, but the comms were down for a week. When we were roaming around, pulling up to farms, going, you pull up to a farm, he's lost his house, he's lost all his sheds. So, millions of dollars of sheds and machinery that's been damaged because the sheds come down on the harvesting gear and all the rest. lost. He's got nothing. Like, you got nowhere to stay now. You'd pull up and he'd go, no, don't worry about me. Next bloke down the road's worse off than I am. Go help him. And that was everywhere. Like, every bloke was like, no, I'm fine. I'm alive. Go look after my neighbour. And that was, it got to the point where we're like, shut up. We're here now. We're helping
You're on the list.
Yeah, exactly.
That's your number. We're
your
coming
mate
for
has
you.
jobbed you in as needing help. Yes, you might think that so-and-so needs help, but we're here to help you. So
yeah, you have the shittiest place now. You have to go next.
Yeah. And that was the struggle, was like getting people to take help.
Yeah.
And that was constant. And then, even with the handouts and all the, when the government started, all the donations from the charities and all that started rolling in, there's still that hesitancy to accept help, because that is definitely something that people do struggle with in country. They're very independent and they're very used to, running their own show.
Proud.
And then, proud. Yeah, absolutely. Yep. And we'll get through this. So but you can get through it with a bit of help, and it'll make it a lot easier. But so I just wanted to just emphasize that. Yeah,
that's amazing. I'm so glad you said that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about photography.
Mm-hmm.
Where did the love for aerial photography come from?
I really just fell into it. So I have been running drones for work as a surveyor for probably 7 or 8 years now. And that's where I started. That's what work sent me down, did all my licensing on the bigger drones and the plane drones and all the rest for large area mapping. Which obviously, so basically with surveyor, we're capturing large plots of land with photogrammetry, and then creating 3D surface models that we can use for cut fill maps for, building earthworks, for subdivisions, for properties and all the rest, mining, obviously. So, I just started flying. And because my job takes me all over WA, most of WA, and WA is a bloody big place, I got to see all these landscapes, and with my love of history and love of the country, I'd be scoping out all the old ruins of the old homesteads and out camps, and and wildlife, water holes. I was doing all this stuff because I love it. Like, I was looking for, and then I'm started chucking the drone up for other, for these sort of things. I bought my own small compact drone, the Mavic 1, which was easy instead, because all the work ones were big clunky things. Great drones, but they're just hardcore and not really something you can just put together and put your hand out the window of the car and send it up. And then just started taking photos for my own pleasure and videos and all the rest, and then sharing on my own social media. And then people start, can I get a print of that? Can I get a print of that? And I'm like, yeah, really, yeah, yep. And then I'm definitely 100% Jazz mate, and my mother, both very arty. Admittedly getting better, but I always tended to not be very artistic. I probably resisted that for a fair while. But I with their encouragement, I guess, and their persistence. No, you need to do something more. You need to, make a social media page and make a website and all that sort of stuff.
And now you have an exhibition.
And now I have an exhibition, and that
your debut exhibition.
My debut exhibition, and I think a lot of that probably wasn't myself pushing. It was a particular shop owner in North Hampton who's bought the gallery, and she's very proactive in wanting to support local artists.
So tell us about the exhibition.
It's December 10th up in North Hampton at the Drywall Art Gallery. We're just going to have, I'm getting all the prints sorted now with the printer. Me and him are going through it. He's a very well-known photographer, Carl Monahan. He's been, Australia-wide known. He actually lives in Geraldton here, but he has all his own printing, hundreds of thousands of dollars of printing equipment and all the rest. So he's been giving me a lot of help and a lot of tips, and I've been just talking through with him and showing him photos and him saying, I wouldn't do this with this one, and learning a lot there.
So it seems like you're very flowy in your interests and your passions that just lead somewhere eventually, which is honestly so really the way to go when you're not really thinking too much. So just in your knack
it's
for
fun.
history and your interest. Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's got to be a hobby, a hobby and an interest that makes, if it makes money or something like that, great.
Sure. Yeah.
But
it's like
it's still
added.
primarily a hobby and an interest that if I don't enjoy doing it, it's like surveying. I actually love surveying. I love where it takes me. And if it didn't, then I wouldn't be doing it, if you know what I mean. Like I'd quite happily go and lay turf or something, like, you know what I mean? Like I'm just very lucky that what I do, I enjoy.
Yeah, that is a really lucky thing. And in regards to photography, do you have any idea of where it's going to go? Do you have like a dream?
I'd absolutely like to keep pursuing it, and I want to start doing a bit more aerials with instead of aerials with just a drone, aerials with the GFX 100, which I just bought, which is a very powerful camera, which I can start doing some really, really big prints. Like it's a 100 megapixel sensor, so I can start blowing up some really.
Oh my god, that would be so cool.
But there's still a lot to learn there because, like I said, I've always been using the drones, and I'm only just starting to play with this. And I'd love to get, I want to get better at my ground landscapes and things like that. We're going to Christmas Cocos Island next month, so I've got to do as much practice as I can between now and then, so I can get some good shots whilst I'm over there. And
is there a lot of post to work on?
Yeah, it's all. Yeah, not all, but you get these people who say, "Oh, you shouldn't need to edit a photo," and they don't have a clue that 99.9% of photos you'll ever see on any magazine, any online, anything, there's all some form of editing done to it. And when you're shooting in RAW, you're basically getting a very dumbed down version of the photo, like it's almost grayscale. And then you're introducing it still detects the colors, but it just gives you so much more power to play with the colors, to bring out the greens in the vegetation, all the earthiness in the ground, in the red dirt, and like it's so much more versatile, and you can really create that nice photography. Whereas anyone who says, oh, that's not photography, it should be coming good out of the camera, just really has no idea. It's not how it works. It's the framing, getting the right frame and all right. Yes, that's what you're doing with the camera. You're getting your shot right, but the editing is what makes the mountain stand out in the background. And you need a bit more than just snap.
Just a snap, like just a moment of luck.
Yeah, which I'm bad. Oh, I used to be shocking. Like ask Jasmine, we'd go on holidays, I'd just be like, click with my phone, just photo. I would come back with 2,000 photos, and I wouldn't do anything with any of them, and they're all just quick, snap. Whereas now I'm learning to take my time and sit there and actually look at a subject and okay, this is how I want it. No, that's not quite right. Move over there, go 20 meters back. Yeah, sort of learning. Still learning, absolutely. Still absolutely learning with the ground camera stuff. I'm all over the drone stuff. I have been for years. But it's the ground stuff that's definitely all a new adventure for me. So.
Nice. Can I ask you something just about your relationship? I mean, your marriage. What advice do you give to people who are starting in an interracial relationship?
Oh, you just got to be accepting and open-minded. Like me, like we were speaking earlier with like my interest in history and the world, cultures, everything like that has always been a huge passion. Like I was actually the first person Jazz met in Geraldton who knew what a Sikh was. So
that was the one thing that I was the most impressed about with you, because when she told me that she was dating you, I was like, oh no, who's this quack? And then when she told me that she knew that you knew what a Sikh was, I was like, that's very refreshing. And then when I got on the phone with you, like, I'm like, okay, he's got his head screwed on right. It is very rare.
And most of my mates wouldn't have had a clue.
And that's what we're used to too. And I think that and I think it's vice versa, when people see us and they see where we're from, everything changes. Like you've brought Jasmeet into a new community, and she's brought you into a new community. And in that way, you've educated everyone who's been exposed to you, you know?
Yep. Even going back to the Cyclone, all the Sikh charities that came up and helped, obviously, I mean, they probably would have found a way to get there anyway, but obviously I was the link, me and myself and Jasmine were the link.
Right.
And they got a hold of me directly and said, what do you need? What do you guys need? And I put the word out. We got a big list of stuff, and they just brought truckload after truckload of fresh water, toiletries, dry foods, they were amazing. It was good. It's real good.
I want to ask you about friendship really quickly. What's the worst character in a person? So something that gives you allergies, like that turns you off.
Cockiness, like I was actually talking about this yesterday with someone, like playing sport or something, and you've got a person belittling the kids, if you know what I mean, like being unreasonable, condescending and unreasonable with the young players in the team because they didn't. Again, cricket is an example. I didn't bowl the ball right, and he's sitting there. I've been out there batting, had a young fella bowling, and the captain who's feeling first slip or whatever. He, the young fella's, hit him a couple of boundaries or something, and he's just going off at this kid, to the point where I'm standing up for the kid. I just hate it. I hate it when people act like dickheads, particularly to younger people. Like when you're supposed to be a figure of authority and a leader, but you're just passing it on, and that kid might, when he gets that age, might be, this is how I was taught, so this is how I'm gonna act. If I'm in a position of power. Do
you let them know that?
Yeah, I called him out. I said, you're an absolute F-wit, and no wonder, he should be coming playing for us, and there's a particular couple of players.
So you're not afraid to let people know if they're dickheads?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. And you're not afraid that you'll lose a friendship from it?
I've got a fairly diverse friend group, and I've got a lot of friends that don't like other friends. So that's a very common thing. Like I've got a lot of friends that they might hate each other, from different friends groups, if you know what I mean. But I'm just like, that's between you guys. I'm not involved in that. As long as neither of you try and bring me into that or talk smack about the other one, because I'm just going to tell you shut up.
Right. So you're clear about your boundaries.
Yeah, you can have your own opinions about each other, but just know that I'm impartial to both of you. So just keep your shit away from me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I can think of a lot of examples of mates that don't like each other. Yeah.
And you just make it work as long as you're clear and they're clear that you don't talk smack about each other.
Yep.
What are you most excited about now?
Keen to do a bit more travel. Work at the moment, I've been on the same project for a couple of months, which is very unnatural for me. I'm typically lots of small jobs all over the place. So I've been on this project for 4 or 5 months since the cyclone pretty much, and I'm well and truly keen to get back to roaming around the bush and not going to the same site and doing the same thing. So I'm really excited to do that. And with the photography and with the camera, with that taking me to places that I haven't, I've been to before, but I haven't shot as a photographer like I am now. Like there's a lot of places that I've been in the past that I go, I wish I had started this 5 years ago, because there's all these places I've been that I never took more than a phone photo that, I could do so much more with, if you know what I mean. Which I will. I'll get there.
Nice.
So that and holidays, obviously getting over east.
That's awesome.
We were supposed to come see you and my mate Jake in Canberra, but
I know
COVID had other ideas. But
next year it's on, man.
Next year, it sounds like it's opening up. I think even Mark might open up, which we'll
so ready. I'm so ready to get out and just get out to Sydney. It's been probably like 4 months and I'm fucking done, man. Flynn, I love you. Thank you for coming on the show.
No worries. Cheers for having me, Mark.
I really hope you enjoyed that episode. Thanks, Flynn, for coming on the show. All right, until next week.